Mary,
Yeah.
do you need help with this class?
If you want to help, that'd be great. Let me make you an organizer.
Okay. It's
So,
been,
so I'm sorry. What? Did I lose you, Sherry?
no, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Are you the one that invited Marie?
I invited like a bunch of people because I can't remember who. Let me go back and look and see who's on here.
Well,
I'm
I know
not
everyone
sure.
but Marie. I don't know Marie.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, Marie, if you see anything that you are interested in, like, oh, that would really help me. Oh, you came from my Facebook page? Okay. Then I will be contacting you after the class to show you what link if you decide you want to order anything. No pressure, just some of the stuff is really, really good. Okay. So today's class is on acid reflux. Very common. I didn't realize until I had researched about digestive system that I realized that between 60 and 70 million people have some kind of digestive disorder, and most of them, the vast majority of them, have heartburn or GERD. And these aren't just people that have it once in a while. These are people that have it enough that they went to their doctor. This came from a medical pool that they did. And that's how many people have heartburn, that they're either taking over-the-counter medicine or they're taking medication from their doctor for heartburn. I had no idea it was that bad. Matter of fact, every year over-the-counter, like Tums and Rolaids and stuff like that, $4 billion of stuff is sold to help people just survive heartburn and GERD. So the fact is, our body is not ever meant to have that discomfort. Whenever you have that, that means there's something amok. Something's not right. Although, even if the acid is shot up through the stomach, you've heard people say, doctor says I have acid reflux, but I don't feel any heartburn. I never get any heartburn. Well, what causes acid reflux is whenever the acid from the stomach goes up past the sphincter muscle, which is right here, it goes up there, and that acid hits the wall of the esophagus. If the sphincter muscle can close that, the acid doesn't go up, or inside of the esophagus is a mucosal lining. If you feel the inside of your mouth, it's like slippery. Well, that lining goes the whole way from the mouth the whole way to the rectum, including the esophagus. So if you put something in your mouth, a lot of times your tongue, it doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother your mouth. But after a while, sometimes it will make it sore. Like my grandkids eat Sour Patch Kids. And we played poker once in a while, and I was eating some of them with them. And they start making my tongue sore because that same lining is on the tongue, and that lemon or whatever they put on to give it that sour taste was actually hurting and burning my tongue. If my tongue had been healthy enough at that time, that should not have happened. So if we can get your lining perfectly okay, if we can get this muscle to pinch it off, it is absolutely impossible to have acid reflux. That's the only two causes of acid reflux. There's things that contribute to it, but those are the two things that have to be in place for you to have acid reflux. Acid has to be able to get to the esophagus, and the esophagus lining has to be too thin. Okay, so that sphincter muscle that I told you is at the top right here. It really looks kind of like a rubber band. you have several of these. One is in your lips, so you can purse your lips like you're going to whistle. You can squish that muscle, it goes around. And there's one at the rectum that stays closed unless you have a bowel movement. That's the kind of muscle that's at the top of your stomach. This is an animation to explain what I mean about the lining needs to be thick. That's probably the number one thing. It's really, really rare to have a problem with the muscle itself. So what I did is I drew two stomach walls, here and here, and the sphincter muscle. This wall and this wall is exactly the same distance apart. This muscle and this muscle is exactly the same size. But as you can see, things can go past this muscle because there's no lining there. This part, however, has a nice thick lining, so nothing can go past that. Everybody with me so far? Now, if we were to take this and flip it upside down, that's what's going on in the stomach that causes the acid reflux. This one, the acid can shoot up past the sphincter muscle, but this one, it cannot. Because the lining is so thick, this muscle is able to completely close off this opening.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah?
I have one person says she can't hear anything.
Okay. Then she might have to get out and get back in. Because if you can hear me, then it's on her end and not this end. You know what I mean?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So does anybody have any questions about this concept? Does it make sense to you? It's the lining that determines whether or not that acid's going to be able to escape the stomach. No questions?
Not so far.
Okay. Now, sometimes that sphincter muscle can't close because you have what we call a hiatal hernia. Part of the stomach can go up past the diaphragm because your esophagus comes down past this muscle. This is where the lungs are. This muscle pulls down to allow the lungs to expand. And then when it relaxes, it goes back up and it causes the lungs to collapse. And that's how you can breathe. Well, this esophagus has to go past that muscle. So there's a little bit of an opening that's supposed to be there. If, however, that opening gets too wide, part of your stomach can go up past here, and that will kind of leave a little bit of a leakage in the muscle because the muscle isn't straight across, it's like at an angle. So sometimes that can allow acid reflux to happen as well. So remember I said the lining or the muscle, those are the only two things that can cause acid reflux. Things that cause this scenario to happen is wearing tight pants, or some women wear spandex or a girdle, something that pushes on the stomach and pushes it up. It can be because you're lacking minerals and this muscle has just gotten weak. Sometimes it happens whenever you're having a baby and it pushes up past, the baby puts pressure up. Things like that. I have a friend who, let me get to here, who recorded her pulling her son's hiatal hernia down. I hope this is loud enough. Well, I don't think you can hear, so I'll talk you through it. What you do is you find where the sternum is, right where the ribs meet together in the middle. And you put your hand in there and you jerk down like she's doing. You jerk the stomach down past that muscle, that diaphragm. Then you find the ileocecal valve. The ileocecal valve is halfway between the hip bone and the belly button. And what you do is you just massage that out. You can do this for babies as well, but whenever you're going to do it for a baby, instead of pulling down the way that she did, you just massage it down like you would pet a cat.
Mary,
Yes?
question here. I no longer have an ileocecal valve, so how can this work then?
Ooh. They had to remove your ileocecal valve. Do you have a colostomy, or they just removed the valve?
Okay, this is a question from Marie. She said, yes, I have, or excuse me, yes. And then she said, no, have short bowel syndrome.
Okay. No bags.
No bags, yeah.
Okay. So you could still pull it down, but you're probably going to have to pull it down all the time. When you massage out that ileocecal valve, it will keep things from pushing back up. So a lot of times people tell me that if they get that pulled down and they massage the ileocecal valve, it stays down all the time. Since you don't have the ileocecal valve, the pressure from the gas from the intestines can push back up, and you may just have to massage it like every morning. And there's some people that do that. They just massage it down every morning. Another thing that people sometimes do is they will drink water, and then they will like jump off of a step or something like that to pull it down. Okay? So you might just have to do it every day because that one part of your body is missing. But still, it's worth it to do that because if not, a lot of damage can be done to your esophagus.
She said, Crohn's, but less, 3 feet small intestines, a fourth colon gone, but look 2 years pregnant all the time, bloated.
Oh my goodness, they took a lot out of your intestines. You should have 25 feet. For people that don't know, you should have 25 feet of small intestines. And she has 3 feet. So it's going to be really hard for you to absorb your nutrients. And then a fourth of your colon, oh my. My, oh my, oh my. Well, first we have to do is stop that Crohn's. And when I'm talking about the lining of the esophagus, that's what happened to your intestines. The lining of the intestines got too thin, and the enzymes and the digestive juices started attacking the wall of your intestines, and that's why they kind of died and shrunk and shriveled up. That's what Crohn's is. So,
She said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, Mary, keep going with your thought.
So whenever we tell you how to nourish your esophagus, that's going to protect what's left of your bowel. Because if you know about Crohn's, chances are they didn't remove that all at once. They've probably been hacking at you several times, right?
She said malnutrition
Right.
since early 70s.
But you had more than one operation?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what happens with Crohn's. Because you're not getting rid of the problem, it just keeps, like the acid and the enzymes are not going to affect what part of the bowel is left. So what we suggest today, chances are, could protect your bowels from you ever need another operation. Because I'm going to suggest things that will nourish the esophagus as well as the stomach lining and what's left of your intestines. That I think we can reverse. However, since you do not have an ileocecal valve, there is a chance that you may have to pull that down every day for the rest of your life. I mean, we may be able to get that diaphragm healed enough that it doesn't do that, but I mean, that's to save the rest of your bowel, that would be worth it. Also, as a side note, I would make sure that I took something called Mineral Chi and VitaWave every day. Those are a multi-mineral and a multivitamin that is so easily absorbed. There's some people that have it's when they had her esophagus removed, she would put it under her tongue and just hold it under her tongue, and then she couldn't swallow it. She had drank lye as a child, and it was destroyed. And she had feeding tubes and stuff like that, but she still was malnourished even with that, because those aren't real nutrients. So she would put it under her tongue, and she got enough nutrients just by under the blood vessels that she felt enormously better. So I would add the VitaWave and the Mineral Chi to your lifestyle. Do you have a gastro tube or anything? No, okay.
She said no.
All right. Well, then I would do those two things just so you don't. I mean, you live off of vitamins and minerals, and if you're not getting those, it can really drag down the health of your body. You can live, but people who are lacking minerals and vitamins, especially minerals, tell me, I don't really feel sick. I just don't feel good, because it's the minerals that we need to feel good. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but I'm going to suggest you do the Mineral Chi and the VitaWave.
Mary, I've never dealt with the VitaWave before. Is it a liquid also?
It is. And I don't suggest it very much because, quite frankly, it tastes really, really bad.
Okay.
Most people, it tastes really bad. It just makes me want to gag just thinking about it. But it can make you feel a lot better and save your life. You know what I mean?
Yes. Now, she said fatty vitamins get crucially low many times.
Yeah. Well, you know what I would do is I would take coconut oil and rub it up and down. Like after you take a bath, just slather it all over you and let you absorb it. You're going to get a lot of fatty acids that way. As well. Also, drinking bone broth might be a good idea. Okay.
She said
All right.
beef or chicken.
Doesn't matter. Either one. Okay, so things that weaken that mucosal lining that we were talking about. This lining. Things that nourish it. I'm sorry, guys. Is alkalizing foods, raw vegetables, raw fruits. Now, Marie, since you have Crohn's, it's going to be really hard for you to tolerate the fiber in raw vegetables and raw fruits in the beginning until we get that lining a little bit thicker. So I would either puree it and do it a little bit at a time, but I believe with all my heart, if you start taking slippery elm, and I would get the bulk slippery elm because it's a lot cheaper, and put a tablespoon of slippery elm in 4 ounces of water, and I put it in a jar and shake it because it doesn't mix very good. It shakes better, and then drink it. Preferably sip it during the day, but at least take 4 of those doses during the day. I have a feeling in a matter of 6 weeks to 3 months, somewhere in between there, if you eat vegetables and fruits that are raw, you'll be able to handle that fiber. But start out slow. And if you need to contact me, my email will be at the very last. You can contact me.
She said, okay.
Alrighty. Things that are absolutely horrible, 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 horrible for the lining of your digestive tract is coffee, tea, and soda, and milk products. Milk, cheese, ice cream, yogurt, and Ensure are horrible for it. You could take a perfectly healthy person, give them high amounts of that, and they could end up with a condition much like Marie has to go through. And what really kills me is a lot of times when people have Crohn's, the dietitian will suggest Ensure. And that just feeds their health decline. It just feeds it. So stay away from coffee, tea, soda, and milk products completely. Milk, cheese, ice cream, and yogurt. Butter is okay, but I would stay away from the rest. Stress. I know a lady that has worked for years trying to get rid of her acid reflux, and she has a lot of stress in her life. And that causes acid that burns and wears down that mucosal lining. Poor digestion can do it. If you burp, bloat, or pass gas, you're not digesting properly. Now, Marie, you're a little bit different case because they did something that's going to make it harder for you to digest, but I think we can get you probably digesting a lot better than what you are now. So I suggest first not to drink with your meals, because drinking with your meals dilutes the acids and the enzymes, and that whenever you drink with your meal, it dilutes it and it doesn't work as well. So personally, I would try to do it without, and as you build that lining, less things will stick, so you can digest properly.
Okay, couple questions, Mary.
Okay.
Well, first she said, okay, and I chew even water.
Well, that's good, but I would keep water away from your meal. But yes, the more you chew, the better it is for your digestion. I even suggest that people take some gum and chew the gum after their meal, because the more you chew, the more the body produces these enzymes and hydrochloric acid. So you fake the body out. You're chewing and don't have as much food in there, but it keeps producing it because it's things you're eating.
Okay, then how about green tea?
Green tea does not do well for the mucosal lining. Green tea does have some benefits. Coffee never has a benefit outside the body. Inside the body. Outside the body helps you with bruising, but inside the body it never does, and neither does soda. There's nothing redeemable about soda. Green tea is good for some people, but not if you have a thin nervous system or if you have a thin mucosal lining. So I would not do green tea.
And then she has, is ghee better than butter? I'm not sure what that's supposed to be.
Ghee is a type of butter. It's an Ayurvedic thing that they do.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it is a little bit better, but not so much that I mention it very often. And then I would absolutely, like a plague, if it was me, avoid any kind of antacids. No antacids at all. Slippery elm is not an antacid. What slippery elm does is it coats the esophagus so the acid can't hit the wall of the esophagus, and it nourishes the esophagus so that it gets better. So it heals and gets thicker. But it's not an antacid.
Question. Papaya chewables okay?
Yep, because papaya will help you digest. I think the raw papaya, but not the raw, raw and fresh papaya is better than the chewables typically because you actually have more of the enzymes. Whenever they dry it, you lose some of the enzymes. But yes, papaya is fine. Because papaya it's not an antacid. It helps you digest. There's some people that, and I don't suggest this for you, Marie, because I think you're beyond this point, so I would not do this. But there's some people that will even drink a half a cup of lemon right before they eat, or a half a cup of vinegar to help the hydrochloric acid so the pepsin can digest their food, to help digest their food. That's why salads and different things, they use these lemon and vinegar on them. Like what are you going to do if you're going to marinate something? A lot of times there's vinegar in it to help break down their digestive aids, as it were. But Marie, that would not be a good idea for you. I think you're beyond that. I think it might do some damage. I actually wouldn't even take any food enzymes right away. I would build before I would do anything like that, other than the papaya that you're taking. Okay, any other questions?
No. Oh, hold on, Mary. Yes. Not do much lemon or apple cider vinegar, etc. Okay.
Yeah, not until we build up that lining, because that acid from the vinegar or the acid from the lemon is going to eat away at the wall of your intestines and your esophagus. Because by the time someone has Crohn's, especially you've had it for so many years, chances are there's hardly any lining at all left in there.
She said okay.
Okay. Now for people other than where Marie is, if you have just a heartburn once in a while and you don't have Crohn's and stuff like that, it's actually good to take food enzymes. And let me explain why. My hand right now has no calluses on them at all. But come gardening season, I will have calluses on my hands because the rake or the trowel or whatever you use will rub on my hands, and to protect that, the body will make that skin thicker. So the more hydrochloric acid you have in your stomach, the thicker the body will induce to make that lining. So if you have heartburn just once in a while, taking the lemon or taking the vinegar or taking the food, especially the food enzymes, because there's a lot more in the food enzymes than those other two things, will actually cause the body to build up a callousing layer of that mucosal lining. So it encourages it. Matter of fact, if someone takes antacids all the time, the body says, oh, well, we don't really need this lining. We'll take it and use the nutrients somewhere else. So taking antacids can actually thin out that mucosal lining. So now, Marie, you can't do that because you just don't have the stuff. It's too far gone. And there could be too much damage that's done in the meantime. But after we get that you don't have heartburn anymore and things slide down easier, then you probably should switch over to something that will help you digest. Because if in the stomach the food doesn't digest, it ferments and it'll cause gas. When it ferments and produces gas, it's also producing an acid, a different acid than what should be in there, like your hydrochloric acid. And that can erode that lining. So most people that get heartburn actually aren't lacking hydrochloric acid. I mean, don't actually have too much hydrochloric acid. They're actually lacking acid. The food ferments, produces its own acid, and that's why they get the belching and the burping and the GERD. So if you're not to the point that you've been have to get operated on and stuff like that, then the food enzymes with the slippery elm will actually help you. Is everybody on the same page with me with that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Liver cleanse formula will help the liver produce all that it needs to help with digestion too. Chewing your food long and well, like Marie said that she does, that helps the amylase start breaking things down. Plus, physically, you're tearing it apart in such a small piece that it's easier. Like if you take a hunk of or a sugar cube and you put it in a glass of water, or if you put just the sugar granules, the granules will dissolve faster because there's more surface area. They all have 8 sides instead of just 1/8 side. So that's one place, is by chewing it. Then the stomach is the second place. The liver and the pancreas also release things that help you digest. Liver cleanse encourages your body to produce both. Now this it's not an enzyme in the true sense that you take it one day and it works that day. What it does is it makes your liver so efficient that it'll start producing its own bile salts and enzymes. If you wake up at night, you should go to sleep at night and sleep the whole night through. If you wake up during the night to pee, look at the clock, fluff your pillows for any reason at all, I suspect that your liver also is contributing to this. So I would suggest some liver cleanse. I usually start with 3, 5, 10, whatever you think you can handle a day, and increase it until you sleep the whole night through without waking up. Is there anybody here that wakes up during the night?
Got a yes.
Okay. So you need to work on your liver as well. Now for Marie, let's build you up a little bit first. And then I would add the liver cleanse. Maybe in about a month, I would start adding the liver cleanse. Okay. Stomach comfort. I don't like stomach comfort, usually, because stomach comfort has something called calcium bicarbonate. And bicarbonates can do a lot of things. It can mess up your digestive system if you take it a long time. Bicarbonates like sodium bicarbonate, like Arm & Hammer, baking soda and stuff like that, can actually destroy your arteries. So I don't like it long term. The only reason why I have it on here is the convenience. If you're out and about and you get really bad heartburn, you may not have access to get good water and put slippery elm in and drink it. So if you take one of these stomach comfort, it contains slippery elm and ginger, and it will help. It'll do pretty much the same thing short term as what slippery elm does, but it's only for short term use. So I usually suggest if someone needs it, they usually need the first bottle, but if they're taking the slippery elm, they won't need any emergency stuff after a while. So this is just because of the convenience, but do not do it all the time. It won't poison you. If a small child would eat a whole bottle of these, it's not going to kill them. It's not dangerous. It just, over long term, is not healthy. Okay. So that's mostly, you do that, and 99.9999% of the time, you should not have heartburn or GERD. Now, if you have a stomach ulcer, that can be H. pylori bacterium. That's a whole different situation. But for just GERD, acid reflux, heartburn, this should take care of it. Are there any questions?
I don't see any.
Okay. We're going to have these periodically at noon or 12:30. If you could ask the people that brought you or told you about this, they can let you know when they are. If you want to order any of these products, it's going to help the person who invited you if you order the products through them. And if, like Sherry, if you decide to order something, you can place that order on to make it count for this as well. You'll still get the QV, the same thing, but it will count towards the bonuses that you might be eligible for.
Okay.
Okay?
And we do have a question here, Mary.
Okay.
Can you comment on esophageal spasms?
Yeah, esophageal spasms happen for three major reasons. One is the nervous system. If the nerves that are around the esophagus, if your nervous system is too thin, the myelin coating on your nerve is too thin, those nerves may get hit at a worse intensity. Like if I rest my elbow on my chair, it doesn't do anything to me. But if I hit it hard, I get what they call a crazy bone or a funny bone. I get that tingling and that sensation because I hit the nerve harder. Well, if the nerve is really thin, it doesn't take a lot for you to get that particular feeling or the spasms. Another thing can do it is the medulla is too thin. And instead of having the peristaltic action from top to bottom as it should, it just spasms anywhere. And for that, I would suggest Mullen. And the last thing is the mucosal lining. So if the mucosal lining doesn't do it, I would work with the other two. If it's short term, you could take lobelia, a little bit of lobelia before you eat or whenever you're having the spasm. You could rub the lobelia liquid and the lobelia I would do in the liquid form. Or you could rub the lobelia down the front of your chest, along where the esophagus, underneath the esophagus lies, because lobelia is antispasmodic. As a matter of fact, at one time, it was the first thing that was used for epileptics. People who had Parkinson's, they would use it. So it helps with spasms of any sort. But look at your myelin, look at your medulla.
Mary, there's another question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see anything specific in the iris for this?
For the esophagus, absolutely you can. The esophagus area, the fibers, instead of being nice and straight and tightly woven, will be looser and wavier. Since you asked the question, this isn't real professional, but I'm going to show you something anyhow. I can't remember which class it is. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So, I don't have the esophagus in here, but whether or not the mucosal lining is thin, you can see by an orangish halo here, or something we call the pupillary rough, where between the pupil and the iris, you see a discoloration. That indicates how thick the mucosal lining is right at the sphincter muscle, the cardiac sphincter muscle. I don't think I have. And then this is poor digestion, this ring around here. Not the ropey thingy, but this solid ring. But I don't think I have a picture of the esophagus. But if you email me, I can send you a picture of what it would show up in the eye. And she was talking about that, not the spasms, right? They talking about the spasms?
I'm just waiting for her to reply.
Because in the spasms, you would look in the medulla part of the brain, which would be on the chart. My grandchildren, aren't they cute? Anyhow, the medulla is in the left eye right here, and in the right eye right here. And then the nervous system, you would see it around here how there's a very thick, like yarny looking thing going around your pupil. That would be thinner. That would be for the myelin sheathing.
Mary.
Yeah?
She said no, just the acid reflux.
Oh, okay. Well, for the acid reflux, you would look for the esophagus, because like towards the nose, but a little bit down, the fibers would be a little bit weaker, or that ring that I showed you around the pupil. That's what acid reflux would look like in the eye. Any other questions?
Mary, so the ring around the autonomic nerve ring that you showed us,
Right.
that if that's thin, that could show acid reflux, correct?
Okay, say that again.
The ring, if it's not real thick, is that a sign of acid reflux, did you say?
You mean around the collarette, the autonomic
Yes.
nerve base? No.
Okay.
That would tell spasms. Remember I said if the coating on the nerve was vulnerable, when you ate or drank something, it can cause spasms.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. And then, how can we get a good picture of the eye?
If you go to my one website, it's called Herbal. I homeschool, in case you wonder why I have this on here. I homeschool my grandkid. Okay, herbal-rx.com. And you click on online visit. It will tell you how to take it. These are all the things it tells you how to take it. And they have to be at least this big and clear. You guys did really good. There's only 5 or 6 people here, and I thought, oh man, it's going to be boring because no one's going to ask any questions. But you did really, really good.
Marie said herbal remedy expert.
Yeah, or you can type in herbalremedyexpert.com, or I made it shorter because people were forgetting it, herbal-rx, R for remedy, expert.com. So whichever one. So if you click on this, this says herbal-rx.com, you click on it and it redirects you there. And then you go online and it tells you how to take pictures of it. But some people send me pictures that aren't good. And I can't, sometimes they're pictures that I can't even use. So try to get really good pictures. And if you already know what's wrong with you, like if someone has acid reflux, you already know. Any other questions?
I don't see any.
Well, thank you for joining us. And like I said, this stuff is amazing. Slippery elm is one of the herbs that are like too good to be true. They're just amazing. And it doesn't take long. It only takes like a month. Actually, when you have heartburn, if you use the slippery elm, the vast majority of the time, like I said, 99.999% of the time, people take slippery elm, and within 30 seconds, your heartburn's gone for that time. But you do it all the time, and then you never get heartburn again. That's what we're shooting for here. Of course, I can't prescribe anything, and I can't make medical claims. But my mother, whenever I was young, she was throwing up things that it looked like coffee grounds, and they get stuck, and she couldn't even eat pureed food anymore. Things are sticking. It's just until liquids because her esophagus just closed up. And they went in to try to do the scope down, and they said, we're going to get an expert to come in because it's swollen totally shut. We don't even know how when she vomits it comes up because it's totally shut. And they said, when we go in there, there's a good chance it's going to split, and we'd have to open her up and move her stomach up in between her lungs. I mean, all the stuff they're going to do to her. I said, Mom, please, 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 just come home with me. Cut out your coffee and your tea and do slippery elm and just listen to me. And she did. And before my mother died, she could eat chicken, dry white chicken. She had no more heartburn, none of the symptoms at all. And I should also add another thing. Don't drink anything this hot, even the bone broth. Let it cool down some. If it's uncomfortable in your mouth, then it can burn that esophagus. There's no way for the body to cool down anything. It can heat things up, but it can't cool things down.
Question, Mary. So if it makes my heartburn worse, should I try to take it or try to build up the lining?
Okay, that has to be LaRue. LaRue and a lady named Tracy are the only two people ever in 30 years of working with this that the slippery elm did not get rid of the heartburn. So it was LaRue that asked that, right?
Yes.
Yep, I knew it because only two people in 30 years. That's why I said 99.9999% of the time. LaRue, do you do the bone broth?
Some, but not as often as I should.
I would do it 2 or 3 times a day. So if you're doing less than 2 or 3 times a day, then yeah, I would do it. Do you mind me saying something about you so I can explain to people why I'm doing this? This would be good for them to learn too.
She said no.
Though she doesn't mind?
I think. If it's okay, LaRue, put a yes in there.
Or okay?
She said okay.
Okay. Because I know how your myelin is, I think that you are really lacking fatty acids. So the bone broth will give you the fatty acids that will help this on its way. Then after you do the bone broth 2 or 3 times a day for a while, then I think if you add the slippery elm, it might work. You did the pulse test, right? And you're not allergic to slippery elm? Because Tracy was actually allergic to it.
No, I never did.
Then I would do that. Do the pulse test. To do the pulse test, you sit down for about 10 minutes. Then you take your pulse, write down the number that it is, like 60 beats a minute or whatever, and then eat or take the slippery elm. If the pulse goes up 12 points, that means you have a food allergy to it or a food sensitivity to it. If it doesn't go up 12 points, then that means it is because you are so lacking fatty acids. And the bone broth will help that. With the collagen and the fatty acids will build that up, and then you'll be able to add from there the slippery elm. Okay?
She did put okay in there.
All right.
And then someone else asked, before you started explaining about the bone broth, what does the bone broth do?
There's collagen in it, which kind of is the spackle that holds your body together. There is fatty acids in it, and there's protein in it. That's what it does. Some people get to the point that there's no longer anything to start building on. Okay, like let's say long time ago, I had this vine. I can't remember I think it was called Vining Dusty Miller. And it was real long, and I cut pieces off of it, and I would put it in the dirt, and it would grow. And I ended up with a bunch of these. I was giving them away to everybody. But you can't do that if your vine is dead. If there's no viable cells there, your body can't do it. And LaRue, I know you've had this for a long time. While doing this for this class, I was thinking maybe you don't have any of that viable cells left to build on. Well, the bone broth will help you develop those.
Okay, and then Marie asked, do 3 to 4 times a day instead of other liquids. Sip on all day, perhaps.
Are we talking bone broth? Or are we talking about slippery elm?
The bone broth.
Well, I would do it for your meals. Or you can do it in between times. It doesn't matter. But you also want to have some break time between the bone broth and the slippery elm. Because the slippery elm will pull in some of the fats, and you're not going to get the full benefit of the bone broth. So let's say I wake up in the morning at 8 o'clock. I would probably have slippery elm. An hour or two later, then I would suck on some bone broth. And then for lunch, part of my lunch would be the bone broth. Then I would have maybe at 11 o'clock, I would have another dose of slippery elm. And then for lunch, I would have some bone broth with my lunch. And then afternoon, I would do another slippery elm. And then supper time, some bone broth and whatever I was going to eat. And then right before I go to bed, I would do another slippery elm. And it won't hurt you if you take slippery elm and bone broth together. It's just that you're going to negate about half of the potential of the bone broth if you take them together. Because slippery elm, besides building, is a demucilin herb. So it pulls in things. Like there's some people that take slippery elm if they have high cholesterol. Because it'll take excess cholesterol out of the feces and hold on to it so your body doesn't reabsorb it. I would also take the slippery elm, if this is for Marie, I would take it an hour or two after I took the Vita Wave and the Mineral Chi.
Marie said, "Oh my, I will swell more than 2 years pregnant. I sip water in the day too much and I swell."
But, all right, did you ever twist your ankle? If you twist your ankle, it gets hurt. It swells. If your stomach, your esophagus, or your intestines are inflamed, they swell. The things that I'm telling you will get rid of the inflammation, like putting ice on your ankle. The more ice you put on your ankle, the more it's going to get rid of the swelling. Now, you might have some swelling in the beginning until you get used to this, but in the long run, I believe you won't swell. Does that make sense?
She said, "Okay."
Good. And you can contact me. Let me see where my thingy is here. Email me anytime you want. You can try calling me, but I'm not always available on the phone. But you can email me anytime, any questions, or you can email me, say, "I'd like to talk to you tomorrow at 1." And I'll make sure I'm at the phone and I'll answer it. You know, but I'll help you through this. I don't just tell people do this and I just let them kind of float for themselves. I'm here for you.
She said, "Okay."
Alrighty. Any other questions?
No, we just had one or two people kind of just jump on, so they kind of missed it.
Okay. Well, I am going to post this on Facebook. And anyone who is doing this to earn free herbs, you can post it on to your people, whatever, and they can listen to it. And then you can send them the link that they can order, and it'll still count. Okay? So just look for it. It'll probably take about 15, 20 minutes for it to convert, and then I'll put it on my Natural Health Professional Facebook group. If you're not a member, I will make sure I click you in. Or you can be my buddy. Mary Peranich Reed Gates is my name. Peranich maiden name, Reed first husband, Gates second husband.
Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Marie said, "Thanks. Just had colonoscopy, no Crohn's or polyps, etc."
Well, good. But that doesn't mean it's not going to come back. So I would cut out the coffee, tea, and milk products at least. And although there's nothing we can do for the bowel that they removed, we can keep the rest of it, I think, healthy for the rest of your life.
She said, "No Crohn's and small only."
Well, I had one young boy who was 17 that they wanted to remove 7 inches of his intestines because they said it was completely dead, no stretch at all when they did the GI. And he got 100% of that back, and he never had any part of his bowel removed. So.
And then LaRue said, "I missed the first part, couldn't hear. Should I take the Vita Wave and Mineral Chi?"
No, I don't think you need it, LaRue, because you're still digesting and absorbing nutrients. You missed the part about Marie. Marie has all but what was it? So many inches.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, she did. She did say Mary, or was that just for the other lady?
Yeah, that's just for Marie, because Marie had like 20-some feet of her intestines removed, of her small intestines, and then some in the large intestines was removed. Plus, they took out her ileocecal valve. So this was because I'm afraid of her basically just just starving to death. 3 feet's not very much to absorb nutrients.
And then Marie said, last surgery 2007, but new GI doc wants me to do a biological meds. I do not want to.
Yeah, I would try this first.
And then she said 3 feet.
Oh, just 3 feet. I thought it came to me that it was 3 feet. Yeah, so that's why I suggest that for Marie. I think everyone else that's on here, unless they had the same scenario as what Marie had, does not need the Vita Wave or the Mineral Chi. Although it doesn't hurt. It's good for anybody, but I don't think you will need it.
She said, yes, wrinkled, shriveled, look older than most anyone. Only have about 3 feet remaining.
Wow. Well, that's happening to you because you're starving to death. You're not getting the nutrients. You're living off sugars, simple sugars, but you're not getting the minerals. Minerals is what keeps you vibrant. Do you ever see a child's skin, how it looks like almost shiny, glowy? That's how our skin should be if we have enough minerals. When you pull on the back of your hand and you let it go, it should snap right back like a rubber band. But if it just kind of goes and slowly sinks back into shape, that's lack of minerals.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah.
I found a question up here in the question box. What
Mm-hmm.
can be done for obstructive intestines? Don't have many details. Person still having bowel movements, but feels that not moving entire contents.
Okay. Well, it depends what's obstructing the bowel. Is it a tumor? Is it a polyp? Is it a twist? Is it a prolapsus? Is it Crohn's? On what you can do for that. Since they are still having bowel movements, it could even be an impaction of old feces. What I would do is to try to, well, if I had more information, I could give a better answer. Okay? But what I would try to do is everybody's fiber. And I would drink 1/2 of my body weight in ounces of water. I would do that first. If that takes them a little bit better, but not the whole way, I would add a little bit of magnesium, especially if their butt and upper legs are cool to the touch. Because if you feel your stomach, it's usually warm. If you feel your butt and your upper legs and it feels a little bit cooler, that means you're lacking magnesium. So then I would suggest the magnesium. But if it's a tumor or a polyp or if it's twisted, nothing, anything I know to do that for is an operation. So with just the information that we have, that's what I would suggest. Everybody's fiber and the magnesium. Lots of water. A lot of raw vegetables and fruits if they can tolerate it.
I think that's all the questions, Mary, if I didn't not miss any.
Okie dokie. So I'm going to suggest the people that invited you here to send you a link in case you decide you want to order. And If you have any questions, you can contact me. You can contact them, but you can also contact me. And again, here's my email. All righty. Well, Sherry, thank you so much for stepping in, because that helps so much. I can't chew gum and walk at the same time, so to read questions and teach is really tough.
You're quite welcome. You got a lot of thanks from the people on here, and gracias.
All righty. Well, you all take care, and I hope you join another class sometime. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for your time, Mary.